It has been 17 years since I introduced a plan to make Cicero a safe place for all residents, regardless of their immigration status, one of the first municipalities in Illinois to do that. With the help of immigration attorney and Cicero native Javier Borjas, this video helps explain what that means and your rights. We hope you find it helpful.
But being a safe place means that the town of Cicero is not going to take into consideration someone's status for purposes of services. And I think another important factor is that no town employee or anyone regarding a representation or representative of the town of Cicero may ask the immigration status of its residents as well. If you or a loved one are being approached by someone claiming to be an immigration agent, I think it's important to be proactive. If you are already approached, you're there with an agent. We're in tricky times and in interesting scenarios because a lot of federal agents are unmarked, they're masked, they're coming in unidentified vehicles. As a result, there are bills being placed, there are states that are trying to pass on these statutes that are requiring these agencies, but it is important to, one, know that it is required for the federal agents to disclose who they are and their identity, and to ensure that this is not someone off the street randomly coming up to you and requesting important information. So one, it's important to ensure that it is a federal agent, and two, know your rights. Know that you can, if in fact it is an ICE officer or a federal agent, you can remain silent should you choose to. And in the event that you are, unfortunately, or subject to an arrest, then or a loved one, then it's important to be proactive. That's a great question, and unfortunately, no, they do not. The federal statutes have regulations, and so they have authority to do certain things, and there is no requirement for the federal government to notify a city or a state that they will be sending agents to the city or into the state. So unfortunately, no. What is required for any agent, whether that's a police officer or a federal agent, a warrant to enter the premises is required. So if someone goes into the door and someone openly and willingly opens the door, so if a resident that is residing in the premise opens the door, they could put themselves at risk. So you have the right to maintain the door closed. You can communicate through the door should you wish. You can request that a warrant be presented, and that warrant must be signed by a judge in order for them to be able to enter the home. Assuming that there is no warrant, then at that point you can have the door remain closed, and just say that, unless there is a warrant, you are respectfully refusing to allow anyone to enter the premise. So the warrant must have the identification of the person that they are looking to arrest or looking to detain. So you have to ensure that the warrant has the full name, date of birth, and identity information in order to ensure that, one, the information is correct, so it has to be correct also. If the information is incorrect, that would be grounds to no longer it be a sufficient or legal warrant or document, and it also has to be signed by a judge as well. So if you don't see that signature, if you don't see that anything's been signed, then I would also say that that's no longer it's not a legal documentation. If you feel unsafe or you feel unsure, and you're not being asked or questioned, I should say, and you're not being detained or stopped by anyone, you can continue on with your business. I would always say, I wouldn't do anything that is unlawful. I would not put yourself in a situation that you're going to put yourself at risk. If you start running, now you are potentially putting yourself at risk. Or if you start potentially giving any kind of reasonable, whatever excuse may be for an agent to deem that you are now a person of interest, I would say avoid doing that. So be wise in your decisions, be conscious of your decisions, don't do anything unlawful. If you see someone or if you feel unsafe, seek refuge, seek safety, and then ensure that you are safe until you can come back out. I think the important thing here is to be proactive from this point forward. We know what the climate is, we know what's going on in our country. And the reality is that things are becoming a little bit more strict. The ICE agents are running rampant throughout the nation. At least that's what's being publicized. That's what the news outlets are stating and claiming. So it's important to be proactive at this point. If you have children, you can implement a power of attorney for those children, have a safe place designated for those children, ensure that you have loved ones, friends, family members that can pick up your children, know where your children are in the event that you are detained at any given moment. So if it's a school year and you're stopped and your children are in school, make sure that you have the proper documentation for the school to be authorized to hand over those children to a relative or a friend. So that's important. And also have an attorney available. So if you have an attorney that you work with, or if you can get an attorney or someone that you can potentially hire or call in the event that you are stopped and detained, so that they can look into the legal resources as to whether or not you're eligible for bond, and if you are eligible for bond, implementing those motions, etc. It's also important to have the fund for that as well. So maybe store some funds on the side in the event, because it can be costly to be granted a bond. Those can be anywhere from $1,500 to $7,500, depending on the reason for the detention. So in short, I would say have a game plan for your children. Have either a family member that's aware of your attorney, and if you don't have an attorney, I would say try to get one, at least on standby, or someone that you can call that would be able to assist you in filing for a bond. And 3, having the funding for it, for whether it's legal fees, but more importantly for the bond fees as well. It's important to be proactive and understand where you are legally. So in the event that you know 100% you are going to be deported if you were detained. Some people are subject to mandatory detention, and some people will be deported immediately should they be detained by an ICE agent or officer. For example, someone that has already been previously deported or removed and then entered the United States afterwards, generally speaking, those would be subject to a deportation or removal of the country without another proceeding, without an immigration removal proceeding. Under those circumstances, it's important to then be proactive in advance. So if you have children, have a safe place for them to remain, a family or a loved one. If you have property, maybe start to look into dividing those assets, or contracting a real estate a real estate attorney, someone that can assist you with ensuring that your assets are safe, whether that's money, whether that's property. So I think it's important to be proactive, and it's important to ensure that you have these things implemented and really thinking in advance and ahead, because once you're detained, unfortunately, if someone is detained, it's going to be very difficult, and you'll need someone a point of contact that you can trust, and that you can relay this information, and that knows your plan in advance, because communication may be very, very difficult at that point. If you go on the internet, you can Google or any search engine, you can search ICE locator or detainee locator, You'll need their what's called A number or alien number. Sometimes someone may have one, sometimes they do not have one. Or you can search them by their full name, as well as their country of origin and their date of birth. With that information, you should be able to locate them and find out where exactly they are being detained. If you have an A number, that's the easiest route, especially once removal proceedings are initiated. If they are initiated, under those circumstances, you'll also be able to obtain information regarding where their next hearing and when their next hearing will take place. And you can also search EOIR case status, and in that website, you can put in their A number, and that information should pop up if they are in the system. Yeah, I think it's, in recap, I think it's important to, again, to have certain things to take into consideration. I think the most important things to take into consideration will be your finances. Have a backup financially. So if you have the funding or somewhere that you can borrow in the event that you may be detained, to ensure that if you are eligible for a bond, that you have the resources to pay for that bond. Children, where are they going to be and where are they going to stay? Property, in the event that you are aware and you are certain that you're not going to be let out and you're going to be removed. Worst case scenario, make sure that you have divvied up your property and your assets and have a game plan for that as well. Point of contact, it's very, very important to have a point of contact. Know who you can contact and who knows your information well. So whether that's family, friends, but someone that's going to be reliable, and someone that, if you have representation, can also communicate. Make sure that the attorney has authorization to communicate with that person on your behalf as well. And also the Form G28, proof that the agencies are allowed to communicate with the representative as well. So those are things that are going to be very important as your quote-unquote emergency plan. There are pro bono agencies that offer services free of charge. And so if you are detained or if you are stopped, you can request that specifically through the office or officers. If you can afford an immigration attorney, you can contact our office. We are Borja's Law Group. Our phone number is 312-788-2783, and we do handle removal proceedings and bond hearings and very complex proceedings as well. But there are also, you can also Google immigration attorneys near you. So I'm sure there are plenty of immigration attorneys that are reputable and that do great work as well. So we are not the only ones, and I don't want to present this as a kind of a format for me to just publicize myself and my services. We have a lot of colleagues that do great work as well. And so I highly recommend, whether it's with me or with any other immigration attorney, that you seek guidance, legal guidance, and ensure that you are very well aware of your case and your defenses and risks and consequences moving forward. I know that during these times they're very difficult and very scary. I get a lot of calls, and oftentimes I hear a lot of people that are very nervous, anxious, scared, worried, and I can understand that. And as a Hispanic, as a Latino, however you'd like to call it, I can understand and comprehend it, specifically because even as a U.S. citizen and even as an attorney, the fear that I have, which I hope is untrue and unfounded, is that I myself would be at risk of potentially being detained simply because of the color of my skin. And so those fears are very real, and I can understand and I can appreciate them. But at the end of the day, we have to understand that fear and worrying in general doesn't help. It doesn't help at all. And so we have to be proactive. And so what I try to do in these circumstances is be informed, not only for myself, but also for my clients and also for potential clients and for the community. It's important to be proactive. It's important to understand your rights. It's important to understand the laws. What this administration is doing, in my humble opinion, is creating a lot of fear in people. And what I can say, at least thus far, is a lot of the things that they're implementing are not necessarily unlawful. It is a lot more strict, but unlawful would be incorrect to say. But the laws have not changed, and that's important to understand, is that we keep thinking or keep hearing that the laws are changing, and the laws are not changing. The laws have not necessarily changed. They have become more strict, and policy maybe has changed. But we still are afforded due process. We still have rights, and it's important to understand that if we respond and react with fear, we are more than likely going to put ourselves at risk or do something that we regret. So it's important to be proactive. It's important to maintain the knowledge and information and maintain understanding, patience, and self-respect so that we can act accordingly and act intelligently. So I would say I understand the fear, but let's not react on fear. Let's be proactive and let's be smart about what we do and our decisions.
Cicero has been a community of immigrants for many generations. We are proud of our diversity and proud to be a safe place for all. Thank you, Attorney Borjas, for this helpful information. For more information, you can contact him or organizations like the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. Once again, thank you and be safe.